Hi, this is Doug from Dynamic Computing, and welcome to episode 57 of 10-Minute Amiga Retrocast, Telecommuting with your Amiga. Most of us are being affected by the current COVID-19 virus situation. Businesses and restaurants are closing down, people are sheltering in their homes, idiots are hoarding toilet paper. But many of us have the opportunity to work from home. Now, myself, I've had the privilege of working from home for the past 15 years in my consulting business, so I'm used to it. But for those of you that are new to the situation, let's see how we can use our beloved Amigas to take full advantage of the situation. Today, I'm going to do everything on my Amiga 4000. Not only is she all decked out for it and can handle it just fine, but she also doesn't get enough airtime. She has everything I need to be a corporate slave and do the bidding of the man in my Captain America pajamas. Now, the most important thing in telecommuting with your Amiga is getting the old girl on the internet. Now, I'm lucky with my Amiga 4000. I have an Xsurf 100 card in it, which is a Zorro 2 and a Zorro 3 card. 100 base T Ethernet actually performs pretty well. I'm pretty impressed with it. It'll work in Amiga 2000, Amiga 3000, Amiga 4000 just fine. Now, it's also incredibly simple to get your Amiga 600 or your Amiga 1200 online with something simple like a PCMCIA Ethernet card, like this ReadyLink one right here. This is a little 10 base T card, works absolutely perfect. Plug it in, load some drivers, you're up and running on the internet on your Amiga 600 or your Amiga 1200. It's a little bit more complicated for your Amiga 500 or your Amiga 1000, but still doable. Now, if you have a Vampire card, you're set. You can just get one of those little Ethernet modules for 15, 20 bucks and you're off and running. For those of us without Vampires, you can go something along this route, which is a little Plip box, which is an Arduino interface on top of a custom little interface that plugs into the parallel port. Now, I'll be brutally honest, I've had terrible luck with the Arduinos. I ordered 2 of them, got them in, neither of them worked. I spent like 6 or 8 hours trying to get them working. Finally, I got one working by replacing the cheap little Chinese knockoff Arduino with a real Arduino, and I got one of them working for the most part. The other one still can't get working. So unless you really, really want to aggravate yourself, maybe think of going with a GuruNet interface from my pals at Amiga on the Lake. That is also built on the Arduino technology, but it's a higher quality piece of equipment, a little bit more expensive, maybe 30 bucks more than a Plip box, but I think overall they're probably going to be a lot more reliable. Now, while you can get a standard 68,000 machine with 1 megabyte of RAM theoretically online, most of the software that I'm going to show you today requires at least like a 68020 with a couple of megabytes of RAM. So do yourself a favor, don't torture yourself and do it on a real Amiga 1200 or a 4000 or an accelerated machine. Even an accelerated Amiga 500 will work just fine. So let's go ahead and jump right into what we need to do on the web. Working from home will certainly require the web. iBrowse, that I reviewed a couple of weeks ago, is a perfectly good program and probably the most compatible browser for your Amiga. So if you can part with the 60 bucks, go with that, or just use the time demo version. Aweb is free and is not too bad, so here's a link to find the latest Aweb. The browser will keep you in touch with your colleagues via Twitter or Facebook and be valuable for the research you need to do on company time. Just a reminder that the date and time need to be set correctly in order to use your browser and other internet apps. So make sure you set your date and time correctly if you don't have a real-time clock, or you'll receive nothing but certificate errors. But email is what we really need to keep in touch with our colleagues and retrieve all those words of wisdom from those mid-level managers that are half our age. While YAM, or Yet Another Mailer, was the de facto standard on the Amiga for years, it only really supports POP3 email, which is an archaic email standard that was obsolete in 1998. Anyone who still uses old and outdated technology is just plain crazy. Modern email uses technology like IMAP, so your email can be synchronized on multiple devices. Gmail and Exchange email can all be set up to support IMAP, or you can often use the web interface for those solutions. Enter Simple Mail, an email package that's still receiving updates as recently as 2018. It's a free program, but I do recommend you throw the team a few bucks on PayPal to support them. Here are the download links for Simple Mail. You can download it right from your Amiga browser. The software uses Mui, or Magic User Interface, but by now I assume you have at least Mui 3.8 loaded on your machine. If not, download and install that first. There are 3 or 4 Mui classes or add-ons that are required for Simple Mail and can be downloaded from AmiNet and installed. Here are the names, and links to them are in the description. Once these Mui classes that I'm referencing here are installed, you can very easily set up Simple Mail just by dragging and dropping the Simple Mail folder that you decompress from the simplemail.lha file. Just drag and drop that anywhere you want to. There is no install routine required besides just installing those Mui classes. Now let's take a look at how this software works. We're going to launch Simple Mail. Now, it opens up by default on a workbench screen, but if you want to, you can go into Mui settings and set your own custom screen. So if you're using something like an AGA system and you want it to open up on a custom 640 by 480 256 color screen, you can set that up in here and it will open up on a custom screen. Just go ahead and create the new Mui class here for your screen, and it will use that. There are an absolute ton of settings in Simple Mail, but let's go ahead and start by configuring it. We go up here to Configuration, we go to Accounts, and you can take a look at the settings. So we'd click on Add. Now we give the account a name. In this case, I'm calling it Gmail. My name, Douglas, not Mark, Douglas. Email address, DCTechAZ. And let's correct that because that's incorrect. At gmail.com. Type of account is an IMAP4 account. The IMAP server, imap.gmail.com, port 993. Now you'll notice here that it supports TLS and STLS, which is pretty cool for an Amiga browser to support that kind of security. Pop in your username here, your login name. Pop in your password here. If you wanted to ask for your password every time for security, you can click that little button. For outgoing mail, here's our smtp.gmail.com, port 587. I'm using Start TTLS here. Again, we're saving the username and password. Now, one important thing, if it's a Gmail account, is that you have to log into Gmail itself on a regular computer and go to your account settings and turn on Less Secure Devices. If you don't turn that switch on under your account settings, you will not be able to use even Outlook 365 with your Gmail IMAP. You have to set that. I think Google just does it to thumb its nose at Microsoft personally. So sweet, the account's created. Make sure you save it. Now, you'll notice you'll have a new thing called imap.gmail.com Now, when it gives you this message, failed to verify certificate for server imap.gmail.com, that's fine. You can tell it trust always. Now it will trust that certificate. Now look what happens when we go back into our configuration settings and we go back in under accounts. Now it has this digital fingerprint so it trusts it. Now we have to resave that. If you don't resave it, go back in here and save it, it will ask you every single time to trust that certificate. The first time we send an email through Simple Mail, it's going to ask us the same thing and we'll have to resave it. So we're going to resave that. Now it says it's got no new folders. Let's go to our Gmail folder, our inbox. There we go. And we've got some emails in here. Our corporate emails have come in. Cat videos from Nancy in HR, inappropriate pictures from Jim in marketing, another message from your long-lost Nigerian prince uncle. Now we can get some business done. The performance of Simple Mail is really not too bad. I've been pretty happy with how it works. It's probably about on par with, say, like Thunderbird on a PC. No problems receiving pictures and attachments like these files. Let's go ahead and open up our files from our corporate office. Here's one from Sally in accounting. Let's open that up. Here are the latest projections for Amiga OS sales. Brilliant idea to save them in CSV instead of Excel format. Who needs formatting anyways? Sally in accounting. Now we're going to right-click this attachment, amigadomination.csv. We're going to do save as. Looks a whole lot like what you do on a PC here. Now let's go and put it in my folder. We're going to go 10 mark, episode 57, and we're going to save the file. Yep, perfect. So thanks, Sally. I really appreciate that. Now let's open up another one. This one's from Jim in marketing. Here is the text for the new handout that we can't hand out to anybody. So he's sent us a text file here that we're going to use. Same thing, we're going to save as, and we're going to put it in our documents folder. Docs, 10 mark, episode 57, and we're going to save that and overwrite the one I've already got in there. Now let's see what other emails we have. Brenda in the art department. Okay, golly jeepers, those pictures, which are totally original and not just grabbed from Google image search, are too big for email or something. I put them in Dropbox in the Amiga episode 57 folder. They are in JPEG, so you'll have to convert them to the far superior .iff format. Brenda in the art department. Oh, thanks, Brenda. Now this is all well and good when Brenda from accounting emails a file over to you. But this is 2020, and our big company uses the cloud to share files. Dropbox in this case. None of this old file server garbage. How on earth can our Amiga get access to data in the cloud? Never fear, the Amiga can handle this too with an awesome utility called Amiga Cloud Handler by Norbert Kett. Let me show it to you. We'll just head back into iBrowse here and pop on over to our good pal AmiNet, which everybody here is used to, and just search for Amiga Cloud Handler. And here we find Amiga Cloud Handler, and this is designed by Norbert Kett. We've got his email address here, and you'll see it's last updated on 2018. Maybe he's got a newer version. This allows you to add either Dropbox storage or Google Drive storage to your Amiga. Works on any 6820 Amiga. It says 28 megahertz, but it'll work a little slower, but it does need plenty of RAM. If you do not buy the license key, then the volumes will come up as read-only. You won't be able to export anything to Google Drive or to Dropbox. So I recommend paying the €10 to our pal and getting the fully licensed version. Basically what you do, there's no installer for the software, so we just follow these instructions. You download the LHA file, decompress it. There's a folder created called Cloud. You copy that to your devs folder. Now you log into either your Google Drive or your Dropbox account on a regular computer and a regular web browser and follow these links that he gives you here. And it's going to allow you to create a special, very, 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 very long code, I think it's 100 or so digits, that identifies who you are. Take that code, save it in a file on your Amiga in the devs cloud Dropbox _client _code file. So you create that file, you just save the text in there, and it's going to remember that until the end of time or until you change your password. Now you just go into your user startup folder and you create a couple of assigns here for SSL root, for Google, for Dbox, and give it those paths. Reboot your machine, and look what you can do after that. Let's open up a shell, and we're going to run Dbox. Give it a few seconds here. Now, look on the desktop. We have a new folder called Dropbox, even with a logo. Now, in our shell, let's open this up. Get a little bigger action here. We're going to go to Dbox. We're going to do a directory. Oh my goodness, the entire contents of my Dropbox folder, which is about half a terabyte of information. So we can move around in it just like you could any folder or drive on the Amiga. This is actually going out and reading the Dropbox information as we're going along. So now we're going to go into the episode 57 folder. We're going to do directory. And look, there's a folder called Pictures that Brenda from the art department told us was there. And look at that. We've got our files here. We've got Steve Jobs, Woz, Bill Gates, and logo pictures right there. Now you can manipulate these just fine with the shell right here. So if I wanted to copy all these to RAM, it's actually going out onto Dropbox over the internet, pulling them off there and putting them right on my RAM drive. And you can see, I mean, they're not huge pictures, but it copies them over at a perfectly fine speed. Everything's done right there. It was about 250K worth of JPEG pictures. Now, this will also work from Workbench. And of course, you're not going to have any icons. I happen to create a .info file from my Amiga directory, but a better way to do this, since there's so much data generally in Dropbox, is view by name and then show all files. Now again, it's going out to Dropbox. It's scanning my Dropbox folders. Once it reads all the folders in, they work just like regular folders. There's my Amiga folder. Go right into there. Look at everything inside of there. And you can copy and move these files around in Workbench just like you could anything else. So tell me, go back to your PC and do the same thing. Access Dropbox from, say, a command prompt or the file manager without downloading all the files and sync them. Use them as a drive transparently. Doesn't work, does it? That's because all the cool kids use Dropbox on the Amiga. Now you can copy things back and forth all you want to, even using utilities like Directory Opus or something like this dirwork that comes with Gulliver's Best Workbench. So here we're going to go to Dbox, : look at that. In dirwork, we can see my entire Dropbox information right here, and you can copy and move things over wherever you want to without a problem at all. There's the JPEGs that I copied over manually earlier. Now you can copy things back and forth all you want, or open them in just about any program and resave them. No problems at all. I usually don't need to use Amiga Forever or Samba because I just put all my shared data into the cloud. If you have an Amiga and a network card, get yourself this software and a free Dropbox account for 2 gigs of space to share data, and you will never go back. If you've got 2 or 3 Amigas on the internet, set up a Dropbox on all of them and share things between your Amigas through Dropbox. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So now that we've got all of this information from our corporate office, some of it via email, some of it via Dropbox, what are we going to do with it? Well, we've got a job to do. So let's get busy by starting by manipulating the graphics. Now in this case, I'm going to use AdPro because it's my favorite piece of software on the Amiga and I love it, but you could also use Grim or even Personal Paint to do this. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go to our folders where we've saved these files. So we're going to go to 10 mark, we're going to episode 57, here's billgates.jpg. So it's a Bill Gates JPEG right here. We're going to load it in, and we need to convert it to an IFF file. Now it's an 800 by 450 file, so we're going to convert it to a high-res 724 by 482 256 color file. And if we execute that, what that would do is actually display it on the screen, but it would do it in regular RGB mode and you wouldn't be able to see it. So we're going to take a look at it with the Picasso 96 saver here. We're going to look at it 800 by 600, 16-bit color. Hey, look at that. It's Bill Gates. All right. Now, what we want to do with this is convert color, and we're going to make a little grayscale Bill Gates. So we're going to do color to gray. Those averages are fine. Now we've converted it to gray. Let's take a look at them again. We're going to do 800 by 600. Now we have a grayscale Bill Gates, just because we want to do everything in grayscale in this particular case. Now I can save this under Savers, save, and we'll go back to my folder here, Work, Docs, 10 mark, episode 57, billgatesgray.iff. So we just click OK here, and it would save ourselves a nice picture of Bill Gates converted to black and white, IFF. We'll do that for all the rest of the files and then get back to work. Now what we want to do, what our mission is to create a little handout. That's what the boss says. So we're going to create it in Final Copy. Now, the Amiga has never had a shortage of great word processors and spreadsheets. I used ProWrite from 1987 through 1994, wrote most of my college papers on it, no problem at all. Now, one very popular and powerful word processor was Final Copy 2. It does a great job with multiple fonts and font styles, and it easily has most of the capabilities of other word processors from the early 90s. Now what we're going to do is we're going to open up this file that marketing sent us. So we're going to go back to Work, Docs, 10 mark, episode 57, and here's the quotes that was sent to us. They were sent in ASCII format. Bring those right in. Now first off, I see a couple problems. The question marks are supposed to be quotes, so we'll just fix that. Now let's bring in the pictures that I've converted. We've got a Steve Jobs picture, a Bill Gates picture, and a Steve Wozniak picture. Now let me tell you something. This thing handles pictures and text 1,000 times better than even the modern version of Word 365. I have no idea why Microsoft cannot figure out how to handle things like pictures and text on the same page and not butcher everything, but they can't. They just do a horrible job. So we're going to bring in our logo. We're going to resize it. Look how easy this is. We're just going to resize this logo here. We're going to put it up at the top of the page. We'll move some of this text around now. Look how nicely that flows. You try to do that on a PC and it's just going to put the text everywhere but but where you want it to be. Now we're going to bring in some pictures here. Let's bring in Steve. Hey, Steve. We'll resize you. Now we'll bring in Bill Gates. All right, Billy boy, where are you there? Bill Gates, grayscale. Hi, Bill. Now we're going to shrink you down a little bit. There we go. Hit enter, get out of the editing mode. And the last one's going to be the WAS. We're going to bring in the WAS. Insert IFF, ILBM. There's our grayscale WAS. Hey, there you are, buddy. Bring that down here. All right, so we've created our handout. We have our Amiga logo. I don't like the text though. Let's change the text style. We're going to highlight our text. We're going to change the font, and we're going to call this, let's see how italic looks like. There, and we're going to make it a little bigger. Size 14. There we go. And font and size 14. Bring you back up here. All right, so we have our document created. This is, let's see, Steve Jobs. A letter was recently found from Steve Jobs by his widow. I was originally fired from Apple in 1985 because I wanted to replace all the Macs with Amiga 1000s so we could be like the cool kids. It's from Steve Jobs. Bill Gates comes clean after all these years. Yeah, Windows 1.0 through 3.1 really stunk compared to Amiga OS. I was embarrassed to sell it, but I really liked the money. We pretty much copied everything in Windows 95 from the Amiga because our company has no capability for independent thought. Now the WAS, Steve Wozniak says, even while sitting on a giant pile of $100 bills, I often wondered why these poor suckers bought Macs instead of the Amiga. Come on, a black and white 9-inch screen and no expansion? I used a few of these Macs to prop up the table that my Amiga 1000 sat on. It was all they were useful for. I mean, so seriously, if these three guys are now telling us, well, he's dead, that the Amiga's superior, I mean, what more can we say? Now, what would life be like without the dull and boring spreadsheets? TurboCalc, one of my favorite Amiga spreadsheet programs. We're going to open it up in 800 by 600. Look at how beautiful that is. Now you can open this up in just about any Amiga mode, 640 by 480, 1440 or 1480 by 480. You can open up in some crazy resolutions to get lots of columns and rows on the screen. Now, this will actually import Excel files from Excel 4, Lotus 123 files, and a couple of others. But unfortunately, the new version of Excel 365 will only save Excel 5 files and above. So we're going to have to import this as comma-separated values, which works out just fine. We're going to go back to our folder here. You guys are used to seeing this by now. 10 mark, episode 57, Amiga Domination. Brings in our spreadsheet just fine. Amiga World Domination Projections. Let's see, Mac OS 2020 is 15%. So we want to actually put little percent signs in here. I'm going to go ahead and clean this document up and then explain it to you. And here we go. We've prettied up the spreadsheet quite a bit. We put in our percent signs, changed some font sizes. We've changed some colors here. And here it shows the market share in 2020 of Mac OS, Windows OS, and Amiga OS. And this is after our corporate companies, this is their world domination projections for Amiga OS on how Amiga OS is going to start saturating the market over the next 5 years until its competitors are virtually non-existent and everything in the world is Amiga. This is a true story. So we've created all these wonderful documents now. What do we do with them? Well, we can print them out, of course. Now, the new Amiga OS 3.1.4 has dramatically improved printer drivers. Let's take a look at those. Go to Workbench, Prefs, Printers. These are much, much better printer drivers than we used to use in the past. And you can see there's a ton of printer options available, and even more of them if you use Best Workbench from Gulliver, he adds a bunch more of them. Now, in this case, I'm using a printer that's emulating a LaserJet 3, so that works out just beautifully. Now, parallel printers are fine and good, but they're rather uncommon today. So you'd have to find one used if you want to use a parallel printer on your Amiga. I recommend a laser. So what do we do now that all of our printers are network-based? No problems at all. We've got a program called NetPrinter coming to the rescue. I've got it installed here, and you can find it right here. I'll put a link to it in the description. Under NetPrinter, what we do, we have this new device called NetPrinter device. We give it the IP address of our printer. There's my printer right there. Protocol is direct, port 91, and we click on Save. Okay, so now back in our printer screen, where'd we go? There's printer. We just changed the port device from printer.device or parallel.device that it normally is to tell it to print to netprinter.device instead. Now, when we save that and we go back to our word processing file, we do File, Print, and we want to tell it to do grayscale. Now I do have a color printer, but I'm out of color ink and almost out of black and white. So we're going to click OK there, and we're going to tell this little guy to print, and I will bring it back with the results in just 1 second. So let's take a look at our final result here. Ta-da! Printed on an Amiga over a network on my new Samsung printer. Not too bad, except even my black and white toner's getting bad, so it's not working out real good on the side. But normally it prints just beautifully, trust me. Now, when you go to get a printer for your Amiga, don't get one of these cheap little $59 HP printers. They're garbage. They're basically only going to print from Windows or Mac because everything's done on the computer, not on the printer. Get yourself a laser printer, even a couple of years old. They're a dime a dozen for a network laser printer. The Brothers work okay. They emulate an HP. Some of the HPs, still the higher end ones, work just fine. You can even use some inkjet printers that are wireless. They work just fine. One big gaping hole is the ability to use PDF files. Those are kind of the de facto standard for interchanging different kinds of files that don't necessarily need to be edited, but you want people to see the results. Now, the Amiga can handle PDF files. It just can't do it easily. The best utility to do it is something called GhostScript 8.7, and I'll put a link to that down in the description too. It's great software. It'll read just about any PDF file that you throw at it, but the problem is it's kind of difficult to set up. It's really kind of an annoyance to set up. So I'm going to have to do just a complete show just on GhostScript. There's a couple of front-end utilities. One was called EasyGS for Easy GhostScript. That was by Amiga Kid and Matthew Lehman. About 10 years ago, he had that out. I haven't been able to find it. I've reached out to him. We'll see if he responds. Another one is GS GUI that I found on AmiNet that's supposed to be a fairly reasonable and simple front-end interface for opening PDF files. They all require GhostScript to work though, so I need to do a whole episode just on setting up GhostScript so we can get PDFs working as easily as possible for you. We've got you telecommuting with your corporate office, no problems at all with your Amiga. All you got to do is have all of your associates send you CSV files instead of Excel files, text files instead of Word files, and maybe use Twitter or Internet Relay Chat to actually communicate. I really hope you enjoyed today's episode. While we really can't use the Amiga for work with today's common files, we can get pretty darn close. For 35-year-old technology, that's not too bad. And once the Amiga dominates the operating system field in 5 short years, everyone else is going to have to conform to our standards. Look out, world. IFF files are coming back. A huge, huge thank you to my patrons. You guys are just fantastic. I love each and every single one of you. Matter of fact, I just got an email from the corporate office with all of my patrons on there, including my latest one, Gjokin, who is my newest patron. If you want to join in, take a look below. There's the link. Let's take a look at that email. Look at all these wonderful people in our A500 tier. Hey guys, thanks so much. Our A1200 tier and our A3000 tier. Thanks so much, you guys. I really, really appreciate every single one of you. Be safe, my friends. Wipe down your grungy Amiga keyboards with 90% IPA alcohol. Follow me from a safe distance on Twitter at 10mark1. But until next time, this is Doug reporting from his pajamas, telecommuting, signing out.